Land management is a continuous game of trial and error. Some projects are short and the results are direct and immediate, while others take patience and can last for years. Today we are bringing you a project that has been years in the making. This is the North Run Autumn Olive Project.
Dough down, buddy. Fill in the freezer one dough at a time.
All right guys, it's December 23rd and we're out here in the Bearded Buck Farm getting ready to start another exciting project to add some more food plot area to our farm. We're on a section of the farm that we picked up about 7 or 8 years ago that we call the North Run. And it's called the North Run because the North Run is actually a tributary to the West Branch of the Susquehanna River that forms the border of this property, and it runs right through this chunk of ground. So of that 245, 250 acres that we have here, a large portion of this ground was mined of its coal back in the day, maybe 40, 50 years ago. And they used a process called strip mining. If you're from Pennsylvania or from around these parts, you're very familiar with that. But if you're not, I'll give you the cliff notes on strip mining. They come into the mountain, they take all the timber off the top of the mountain, they strip it off the topsoil, they take the subsoil off, and the coal is usually not too far beneath the surface, making it a very economical way to get the coal out of the ground here. Well, that's what they did on about 75 acres of this farm. And a lot of times, especially back in the day, 40, 50 years ago, the reclamation plan was not very good. So you'll have a lot of invasive species such as autumn olive, like we have here, that took over 60 to 70 acres of this portion of the farm. About 6 or 7 years ago, after we bought the property, we came in here, we dozed out several lanes, we put what we call a hub stand up here, and we put about 6 acres of food plots in here. So with this phase of the plan over here, we're going to be taking out an additional 10 acres of autumn olive behind me. The ground is fairly level back here and easily farmed. And then across the way on the other side of the hub stand that we have here, we're going to do another 9 to 10 acres. So as I mentioned, it's December 23rd. I know we're busy with Christmas and New Year's coming up, but we're going to be soon after that bringing my dozer in here, and our good buddy John, who's been helping us work on the farm for many years, is bringing his dozer in. This time of the year, the ground is going to be almost frozen solid, which is going to make it easier to push these autumn olive off. With the type of blade we have on the dozer, we're saving a little bit of topsoil that's left on this property, but also the roots are going to pop out of the ground a little easier with the ground frozen, saving that topsoil even more for us. Our goal on those two spots are to try and introduce corn and beans into this part of the farm. It's something we don't do a lot of, but over here we have some neighbors that do that. So we're losing our deer at certain times of the year, hitting their corn and their beans. We're going to see if we can't do our best to keep those deer and turkey on our farm. But we're at the point right now where we're seeing how big this plot is actually evolving to. It's important right now, instead of having just a giant open field, we want to go into this field and break it up by leaving structure. Like we have behind us here, we're finding some pine trees that were in different clusters in here. So, and then we'll come back later and we'll plant something like a switchgrass or bedding in a bag around these areas to break up this large, ultimately 25-acre field. All right guys, well it's only 3 days. We're about at the end of the third 8-hour day in here with the 2 dozers running. And this project's coming together a little quicker than we anticipated. Due to the maturity of this autumn olive and the size of them, they're coming out really easy. So we've already got probably darn near the first 10 acres of this property cleared off. So we're gonna create some funnels where we want the deer to enter and exit this food plot when it's completed. And we'll go back through and cut some openings at random spots on a bench or so where natural travel would like to occur. So things are really moving up fast here. So we're gonna do a total of 25 acres over here. That's what we figured out of the 90 acres of autumn olive that we have, the topography is safe to farm on. So we don't wanna put ourselves on too much of a strain. We're getting a little bit of a slope over here, but no problem for the tractors we're using. But 3 days into it, things are moving along quite nice. size of these stumps in this autumn olive are incredible. They look like full-size trees in here. So that initial autumn olive removal was a huge step for us, and we just created an incredible asset for our property for years to come. I want to touch briefly on the availability of some heavy-duty equipment. If you don't own machinery like this, renting is an excellent option. The going rates in our area are currently between $500 and $800 a day for a full-size dozer. And if you aren't clearing the same acreage as we did here, you could probably get away with something smaller for a cheaper rate. Now, if that number jumped out at you and you had a little sticker shock, please keep in mind that this will only be a one-time expense that could dramatically increase the productivity of your property for a lifetime, especially here in Pennsylvania because tillable ground is in short supply. But enough logistics talk for today. Let's talk about the next step for our project, which is disking. The groove blade that we installed on the front of the dozer did an excellent job of getting that surface layer broken up. So it's time to get the disc out and level this soil. This will also expose any of the rocks that need to be picked and the roots that need to be trimmed that the dozer missed. Well, we've done about 3 passes on this ground with the disc and picked more rocks than anyone should be allowed to. But this soil is officially prepped for seed. So let's head back into the field to talk about what we are planting in this destination plot. All right, so it's July 22nd and we're back over here on the northernmost part of our home farm. And we're out here today getting ready to put some seed in the ground. You've seen we've been busy disking this plot up. We took out approximately 25 acres of autumn olive over here. And our goal was to get lots of corn, lots of beans in the ground over here for this fall to have a winter food source, to help our deer stay on our farm, and to get them through the stress periods. Well, as you see, as I said, it's July 22nd, so we're not over here putting corn or beans in the ground. We're over here putting the next best thing. We have to adjust on the fly. We didn't get over here in time to get those crops in. Austin had a wedding, we had a lot of stuff going on, so we're adjusting. We're putting the next best thing in the ground over here. We're doing a lot of brassicas, some sugar beets, some radishes, some turnips, a lot of oats, and some wheat and some rye. So we're gonna get a lot of that in, probably doing 5 acres right where we sit right now. So we're gonna be on site over here probably for the next week, week and a half, getting the seed in the ground, picking the rock. As I said before, this was a strip job property from the mines. There's still a lot of rocks here, a lot of residue from the autumn olive that we took out of here that's going to have to rot over the years, but we have a lot of seed to soil contact out here. It's going to work great. We're going to be doing some spraying for some more weeds throughout here, and we'll be putting later plots in here right before hunting season. Probably our oats will go in within a week or 2 of the season, so they have that immediate draw of the oats in here for a hunting plot also. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go around to the other 12 acres that we took out, which we haven't sprayed any of the weeds at all in there yet. And also there's some grass areas over there that we're going to turn into early successional plots, and we'll talk about that. Guys, so we're out here on the other half of this ridgetop that we had cleared this past winter. We were very fortunate to get in here in the winter when the ground was frozen solid to use that valuable time to get this ground cleared. We're standing right now in a transitional zone between what we've cleared and some strips of autumn olive behind us till we get to where we're already putting in Nebraska plots behind us there. So what we want to do, we have 3 or 4 acres of this grass. There's some, I can see some goldenrod and some deer tongue in here and some timothy. So we're going to leave this into the early successional plot. We'll be spraying this area with a herbicide called Plateau, which will take out these grasses and the plants that aren't good for the deer and leave the broadleaf plants in here that are very valuable to the deer and give them a source of protein. And at that point, we end up with cover and feed in the same location and not just cover. But what you can see behind me, the rest of this field, which is probably about 9 to 10 acres behind me over here, we have not sprayed yet. So everything coming up in those fields is the early successional weed bank that was already in the soil. Just from disturbing the soil, those weeds come up. So we will be spraying that again over the course of now through fall and even into next year to continue to put food plots throughout this, some corn and some beans next year. Again, we didn't get it yet in this year, but we're also going to do some brassicas, add some additional clovers, and have some oats plots back here yet. So lots to do out here. We got lots of ideas, getting creative, but we also want to set those spots up for the prevailing winds that we have for entry and exit out of these stands. So we'll be talking more about that later in the episode.
Hey guys, Austin Tibbett here with a quick tip for you. We have finished our summer planting over at North Run, and it's been about 2 weeks and we're finally starting to notice some green up. So this is the perfect time to introduce Deer Grow's solution of fertilizer called Plot Boost. Plot Boost is a liquid fertilizer that is applied directly to the foliage approximately 2 to 3 weeks after germination. It is best applied first thing in the morning or directly after a rain. It increases your food plot's yield, nutrition levels, and maximizes drought tolerance. Pick yours up today at deergrow.com.
So now that most of the seed is planted over here, it's time to start thinking about stand locations. Now, as a larger destination plot, our primary focus is going to be locations for gun season, but it is wise to also choose locations with both archery and gun applications in mind. So on the northern end of this destination hub, we are going to install a banks blind. This will be perfect to overlook this northern section, particularly on a north or east wind, and we could even get away with a southeast wind here. We also have a few existing different access roads leading almost right to this location, so based on these factors, this is a perfect spot. Now, in addition to that location, we also have some existing blind locations with different access points that we will utilize based on specific wind directions and deer movements. Now, this ridge is big with ample bedding already, so we don't have the need to create additional bedding within the hub. But we would like to point out some of the larger bedding around the hub that we've established over the years. So we have strategically left these areas alone to ensure that the deer feel safe. And we will keep these areas in mind this fall when we are accessing and hunting this hub specifically for target bucks. But that's enough talking. Let's head back out into the field to enjoy some of the fruits of our labor.
Well, guys, you see me sitting here in orange. Fast forward all throughout archery season into the middle of rifle season. Dad and I have both been successful here in our home farm in Pennsylvania until killed 2 great bucks. But today we're back over here at the North Run Autumn Olive Project, where the last thing you guys saw was us put up this banks blind, and we're over here to enjoy some of the fruits of our labor and do some doe management and hopefully fill the freezer. You see the front one's the biggest one. Jeez, there's another one coming up the hill. Just let her come out. Don't go too far over there, girl. Yeah, I was gonna say, don't you fucking think I'm not going too far away. Down, buddy. Filling the freezer one doe at a time. Whew. That's awesome. Nice and early. Be able to take care of her in the daylight and get her back to the skin and shed. That's awesome.
Well, what a great way to close this chapter of our project over here at North Run. We have some exciting plans for this area in 2023 that we will be sharing with all of you right here on the off season. If you haven't yet, make sure you go subscribe to our YouTube channel and go follow our social media pages to stay updated on what we are doing. Well, that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching another episode of The Off Season.